Welcome back to another explainer. I am absolutely thrilled you're joining us today. So, we're diving into a truly classic story, one that honestly just beautifully captures this universal, unstoppable power of connection. You know, we spent a lot of time looking at facts, figures, and the raw data of history. But today we're looking at a story that has literally survived for over 2,000 years simply because of its heart. Okay, let's just jump right into the premise here. Can a giant royal elephant and a tiny, kind of scruffy stray dog actually be best friends? Just imagine this unexpected duo for a second. On one hand, you've got this massive creature of royal status, and on the other, a tiny little animal just fighting to survive on the streets. It honestly sounds like the plot of a modern animated movie, doesn't it? But as you'll see, this dynamic has been capturing the human imagination for a very, very long time. Let's get right into Chapter 1, The Lonely Royal Elephant. So here we meet our main character, Gajaraj. And I want you to notice the stark contrast here. I mean, he is a royal elephant, right? Living in the absolute best booth of the royal stables. The king was extremely fond of him and made sure he was treated with the utmost care. And his Mahot, his caretaker standing right there, was a genuinely kind man. He served Gajaraj all his favorite foods, gave him these daily baths in the elephant pond. But just look at Gajaraj's face. Despite all these royal comforts and despite having a good caretaker, he was just desperately lonely. Because let's face it, a caretaker, as kind as they might be, isn't necessarily a friend. Kajaraj's deepest inner thought kind of hits the nail on the head regarding his dilemma. He thinks, I wish I had a friend I can play with. And that right there makes him such a relatable character. He has every single physical need met, shelter, food, safety, the whole shebang, but without a true companion to actually share it with, to play with, none of those royal comforts really mean anything to him. Moving right along to Chapter 2, An Unexpected Best Friend. One late evening, the whole routine of the royal stables gets interrupted. A tired, incredibly hungry stray dog mistakenly wanders right into Gajaraj's space. Now, normally, a giant elephant could easily get spooked or even aggressive toward a sudden intruder. But Gajaraj, he immediately sensed that this little visitor was just exhausted and starving. So what did he do? He gently pushed some of his own food right over to the dog. The dog wagged his tail to say thanks, completely devoured the food, and just instantly fell fast asleep. The very next morning, the Mahout found the stray, saw that Gajaraj actually seemed to really enjoy the company, and tossed the dog some crumbs too. And just like that, the spark of a friendship was lit. Soon enough, when Gajaraj went out for his daily bath in the river, his new friend would tag right along. Now, Gajaraj absolutely loved plunging into the water, giving himself these long showers with his trunk. And as we can see, he playfully splashes a massive trunk full of water right onto his tiny little companion. But the dog? He absolutely hated it. He would yelp in protest, while the Mahout just stood by laughing his head off. They were total opposites for sure, but they were figuring each other out. And very quickly, these little daily routines completely cemented their bond. They became inseparable. Literally inseparable. On their way home from the river, Gajaraj would actually use his massive trunk to gently pick up the little dog and place him right on his broad back. And the dog was absolutely delighted to get a ride like that. So what started as just a shared meal turned into this beautiful, deeply trusting, and honestly incredibly unique friendship. Which brings us to Chapter 3, The Heartbreaking Separation. So one day, a farmer just happens to be passing by the stables and spots the dog riding on the elephant's back. Suddenly, he yells out, "Bunty!" and the dog instantly runs right over to him. The farmer hugged him so tightly and explained to the Mahout that his beloved dog had vanished from his house and he'd been searching everywhere for him. Well, the Mahout, of course, had no objection to the guy taking his rightful pet back home. So the farmer tosses a rope around the dog's neck and starts to pull him away. But I want you to notice Bunty's reaction when that rope pulls tight. It's only then that the dog realizes he's being taken away from his best friend. He yelps, the elephant winces, and tragically, neither of the humans even noticed, but both of these animals were quite literally in tears. The true depth of their connection became incredibly obvious the very next day. The Mahout served Gajaraj his favorite food, right? But when he came back later after finishing his chores, the food was completely untouched. Now, at first, the Mahout thought, okay, maybe Gajaraj just has some mild indigestion. But the next day and the next night, Gajaraj still wouldn't eat a thing. The Mahout checked his stomach, absolutely nothing physically wrong. And at the exact same time, miles and miles away at the farmer's house, little Bunty was doing the exact same thing. He hadn't touched a single bite of food since he arrived. So despite being in completely different locations, they shared the exact same, completely devastating reaction to their heartbreak. They were literally starving themselves out of pure grief. All right, let's turn to Chapter 4, A Joyous Reunion. Back over at the farm, the farmer is looking down at his incredibly weak, starving dog. And then it hits him. He suddenly remembers that amazingly happy look Bunty had on his face when he was sitting way up high on the elephant's back. He finally puts the puzzle pieces together. He looks at Bunty and just says, "I cannot see you go hungry. If you miss your friend so much, go to him." And he reaches down and unties the rope. Well, instantly Bunty, who was practically lifeless just moments before, springs right up to his feet. He gives the farmer's hand one quick, thankful little lick and then takes off running, just sprinting as fast as he could, not stopping for a second until he reached the royal stables. The moment Bunty arrived, Gajraj scooped him right up with his trunk and gave him this massive, joyous swing in the air. The mahout was so intensely relieved to see this that he rushed right out with food, practically begging them both to eat. Now, by this time, the farmer, who had actually followed Bunty all the way there, arrives at the stables too. And these two men just watch with total satisfaction as the two best friends finally ate their meals together. And there's this really beautiful twist here. The mahout turns, hugs the farmer, and says, it's not only Gajraj who has found a friend, I've also found one. The incredible bond between these two animals actually ended up bringing the humans together too. Let's wrap this up with Chapter 5, Lessons from Jataka Tales. So the story of the elephant and the dog is actually found in the Jataka tales. If you don't know, these are ancient Buddhist stories full of life values and wisdom that have been passed down for well over 2,000 years. And I think that really elevates the story we just walked through, right? It takes it from just being a simple, cute little fable to a truly vital piece of cultural history. For literally millennia, this exact story has been used to teach us about empathy, about looking past our outward differences, and about the sheer, undeniable value of companionship. The source material asks us to consider this famous quotation, "My best friend is the one who brings out the best in me." So I want to ask you, who is the friend that brings out the best in you? Gajraj and Bunty really couldn't have been more unlikely companions, yet they brought immense joy, routine, and literal life back to each other. I highly encourage you to take this 2,000-year-old wisdom and apply it to your own life today. Think about the unlikely friendships you formed and the people who just make your world feel a little less lonely. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer today. Keep learning, keep exploring, and I'll see you next time.